next, let's meet Toby Dayton. He's president and CEO of LinkUp. Toby is here to introduce outstanding director John Bergstrom. Please welcome Toby to the stage.
Thank you, and I'm the lucky one who has to follow that. So this is a fantastic night, and I really appreciate the opportunity to recognize John Bergstrom for being named one of this year's outstanding directors by Twin Cities Business Monthly. I couldn't think of a more deserving recipient, and of all the successful companies that John has worked on over his career, I feel lucky to be the one up here to be able to introduce him. As we've heard tonight from a number of speakers, it's hard to overstate the critical role that directors, and John in our case, has played in helping get LinkUp where it is today. And what's particularly impressive is the fact that John has been there from the very beginning when we founded the company as a job search engine at Cherry Tree over 20 years ago. As board chair, John was there when we wrote our first business plan, raised our first round of seed capital, and assembled the initial management team along with our board. And he's been instrumental in helping guide and oversee the business as we've evolved since then into the global leader in delivering job market data to corporations and investment firms. I take it as a given that a great director, particularly a great board chair, by definition, adds significant value to a business in terms of the fundamentals, operations, finance, strategy, team, capitalization, M&A, governance. And not to minimize the importance of any of those things because they are critical, but those basics are sort of the cost of entry. A truly remarkable director is one who continuously adds value to the business as things unfold and everything gets really complex and really challenging, as they always do. And that's where John's talents as a director have proven to be profoundly beneficial for LinkUp. His leadership, judgment, calm demeanor, and consensus building were always the steady hand as we navigated through 2 recessions, one of them a great recession, a global pandemic, the significant evolution of our business over time, and most recently, the successful spin-off and sale of our recruitment ad business so that we could focus solely on our data business. Needless to say, we would not be where we are today were it not for John's tremendous talent and phenomenal contributions to the business for over 20 years. And it's been one of the great partnerships, one of the great relationships of my entire career that I've had the opportunity to work side by side with John to build LinkUp into the company it is today. So thank you, John, on behalf of the entire company, the board, our shareholders, our clients, and really the community as a whole for everything you've done as a phenomenal director, and congratulations on being named an outstanding director by Twin Cities Business Monthly. It's extremely well deserved. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby, for that very nice introduction. As you've heard, my time with Toby and his company, LinkUp, has been a particularly rewarding experience for me. It's been 22 years, in fact. We founded the company in the year 2000, and although I've been on quite a few boards, this is my longest-serving role as a board member and recently the chairman of the company. As Toby described, LinkUp today is an alternative data business in the area of job listing data. But to get there, we've gone through at least 3 major transitions in the business model, numerous financings, a lot of twists and turns, and there's a lot of stories that we could tell. But I will not fill the time with all of that, other than to say thank you very much, Toby, and thank you to the shareholders of the company, several of which are in the room here today, for allowing me to serve for this period of time. In my current position, my day job, I work for the amazing St. Paul-based asset management firm Mars & Power, where they have recently launched a venture capital division where I am their fund manager. A table of my colleagues from Mars & Power are in the audience, and I thank them for their support in creating this opportunity for me to join another group of small company boards in the current decade as a representative. As you may know, in the venture capital world, funds often place representatives on boards, and that's been most of my history. A couple of those company CEOs are in the audience tonight. I'd also like to thank my friends from the Cherry Tree investment banking firm, I see them up there, who hired me long ago. I was 23 years old, and they hired me in their former venture capital operation and allowed me to join my first boards of directors. Probably about a dozen of them, it turned out to be over time. So thank you to Cherry Tree very much. I'd also like to thank Brent Harms and his company Simply Connect, who's in the audience. He's had a series of about 5 companies through his career, and I've been on the board of all of those. So to those organizations, I'm responsible for a lot of my board seats. My takeaway message for you tonight, though, is to offer an optimistic tone about the status of board service and corporate governance in the United States. Without a doubt, in my opinion, there's been a notable improvement in the quality of corporate governance over the 30-plus years that I've been involved in board service. This is really good news, since better governance means good outcomes for shareholders, employees, customers, and our communities. Something to be optimistic about. To be more specific, I've seen at least three positive changes in board governance over these few decades. First of all, credentials of directors. Second, the independence of directors. And third, the diversity of directors. Improvement in each of those areas. First, on credentials, I think it's clear, and those of you who have longer tenure like myself, I think would agree that boards of directors, public, private, nonprofit, today put a lot more stock in appointing people to board positions who have the relevant experience and knowledge to fulfill their roles. That seems obvious. Why wouldn't you do that? But that certainly was not in the case in the past of more casual corporate governance, even earlier in my career. So credentials are improved. To the point of better credentials, I'm excited that the National Association of Corporate Directors, that's the dominant national association of people like us who are on boards, they have launched a director certification program, kind of the first such program. I was happy to become one of the first 1,000 people to receive that designation. I know there's several others in this room that have that designation. And I believe that within even 5 years, being NACD certified will become a de facto requirement for board service at many companies. And I think that's really good in terms of continuing to ratchet up the knowledge base of people that serve as board members. Second, independence. And by independence, I mean including at least some board members who are not employees or otherwise conflicted in their loyalties to the corporation. I think there's been notable progress in that area. As most of you know, publicly traded companies in the United States are required to have the majority of their directors be independent of the company so they can establish best judgment. But even in my world of smaller private companies, there's been a notable trend toward more frequent involvement of value-added independent directors for purposes of integrating different expertise, viewpoint, and experiences that help companies. And finally, diversity. I think we all know that the involvement of board members who are more diverse by gender and racial background has gone from near zero to much better over recent decades. We're still not nearly there. In my world of smaller private companies, the transition is slower, and most boards are made up of people that look much like me, but I can confirm that is changing, and even though that pace needs to accelerate. So optimism about corporate governance in the United States. Thank you to my fellow honorees. Thank you to Twin Cities Business for running this great program, and thanks to the sponsors for making this possible. Have a great evening, everyone.